My name's Pete Allum. I recognise a lot of faces, not everyone. It's really good to see some new faces in this, especially as we're going to talk about putting a team together. So the plan this afternoon is for the next 50 minutes, if I can stretch it that long, is to talk about how to put a team together. And this is based on being on a team for the last 30 years. I counted it the other day and I was like, really, it's 30 years I've been on teams. This is sharing some of the pitfalls, some of the positive points from myself and my teammates over those last 30 years. So hopefully we can help you navigate through some of that process. And then the second part of the seminar is talking about the training plan, what to do with the time and money that you have available. So cracking on, putting a team together. First thing we need to know is where are we going and how do we get there? So what I'm going to do is break up this part of the seminar into a few different areas. The first one is personal commitment. What can each of you put into the team with regards to time and money? Team goal. Talk about all these things in a bit more detail as we hit them. Time and money, the big one for teams. And the rules. Some basic rules that, again, from myself and my teammates, things that we feel can help you navigate the ups and downs of being on a team. And the second part of the seminar is going to be talking about the training plan and how to structure it in a way that we've found successful. There's going to be other ways, but this is something that we've found pretty successful. Okay, and I'm going to assume, should never assume I know, but I'm going to use a four-way FS team as a model for this, but it could be any kind of team. It could be a free fly team, canopy piloting team, whatever. Any kind of team environment within a skydiving framework. Okay, team commitment. This is the big one. First of all, you need to find your teammates. And what I've done is I've picked 5 completely random names. We've got someone called Toby, and he's got a certain amount of time and commitment that he can give to this team. Then we've got someone called Steve. He's got another amount of time and commitment, slightly different part of the year that he can commit to maybe. A certain amount of money. Same for Chris, Rob, and John. And somewhere in amongst that is this shared area of how much effort each individual teammate wants to put in to that commitment. All right, it's going to vary team to team, person to person. You do find you get some quite disparate teammates. You have one teammate that wants to put in 1,000 jumps and 12 months of commitment. And then you have another teammate that wants to put in 100 jumps and 2 weeks commitment, but they both want the same team goal. It doesn't always work like that. So trying to find some kind of area where you all cross on is a good place to start. And so how do you meet these people? Well, right here is one at the AGM. What other places do you think you could meet teammates? Where can you go to meet fellow four-way addicts? Online, yeah? In the tunnel, excellent. Tunnel camps, online, regional meets, competitions. Go out and compete. I mean, a lot of people don't want to compete because they're not in a team. Just get on a team, put a scratch team together, go to nationals. Who's been to nationals, four-way nationals at HIB the last few years? Yeah. I mean, it's fun, right? It's fun whether you're competing for gold or whether you're attending for the first time. It's a super fun environment with which to meet like-minded souls and maybe build something a little bit bigger. Scrambles, regional competitions. The main thing is get out there. Okay, team goals. So, all right, this is something that every team should really do when they get their team together at the beginning of their commitment, is put some goals up on the mantelpiece. You know, sit down and talk about what do we want to do. A team goal might be win nationals, go and medal at the World Championships. It could be win single A at nationals this year. It could be do 2 regional meets and see how we go. You know, it could be any kind of commitment, but a goal, but some kind of goal that you can put on a mantelpiece, kind of polish it up right at the beginning and leave it there, and that's your guiding light for the whole season. Certainly isn't something that I would recommend you talk about every day, but it is something that once you've put it there, you know that it's shining there, and you're thinking about that's what's driving me forwards, that's what's keeping me going. That's a team goal. It has to be realistic, so if you're going to do 100 jumps, 10 minutes of tunnel, and you've got a couple of 100 jumps yourself, don't expect to win four-way nationals, you know? It's going to take a little bit more than that. But surprisingly enough, you get a group together and you sit them down as a coach. You say, right, what are your goals, guys? And they're like, well, yeah, we've got 150 jumps this year. We think we can hit a 17 average. And it's like, wow, we've got our work cut out now. Just trying to explain how hard it is to do that. It's doable, but with the right amount of time and money. Individual goals, a little bit different from the team goals. For me, an individual goal is more about my motivation, what gets me out of bed on the 4th day of training when I'm not feeling so good. I've got a sore back. I really know that I should be home because my wife's got this that she could do with me looking after, but I'm on a training camp and I need to have something that's going to get me out of bed and focused on something that I've signed up for with my team. So an individual goal could be something a little bit different. It could be, I love four-way, it's all I know, it's all I want to do, I just want to be the best in the world. It could be, I enjoy it, I enjoy the environment, I like skydiving and it's a good place for me to do it. But trying to find a personal goal, a personal motivation that will push you through some of the more challenging moments of that year. Cool. We'll do some questions at the end, but if you guys have anything that you want to talk about throughout, please bring it up. Come on in. Okay, time and money. I'm just going to put a few things on the board for this. We're going to talk about a lot of these things in more detail when we go through the training plan on the second part of the seminar. But your time and money can buy you jumps, time in the tunnel, attending competitions. Don't know if any of you have been to any international competitions, but they cost quite a lot of money to go to as well. So if you're thinking about that, put that as part of your budget. Then travel, whether you're going to be training at a local drop zone, whether you're going to be going to Spain, the US, wherever. Are you going to get a coach? Are you going to need some extra equipment to do this? Are you going to need to think about packing? Now don't forget, this is all relative to your goal. You may only tick a couple of these off and you may only put a certain amount of effort into some of these areas. If your goal is to win nationals and win the World Championships, you're pretty much going to be going through all of these in quite a lot of detail. But if your goal is to attend nationals for the first time, maybe not so much. Just trying to work out where you lie within that, relative to your goal. Okay, we will cover a lot of this in more detail later. The rules. Now, obviously rules are relative and pertinent to your goal and to each type of team that you have. But I found that it's almost if you can have a contract. When you sit down together, it doesn't have to be written, could be. But let's say you get the team together that first weekend. You're all sitting around a table in the pub or at the drop zone or over a cup of tea, whatever. Maybe just sketch something out, put down, you've agreed to do this. You've agreed to give me this, or give us this amount of time, this amount of money. Put it down. Be as detailed as you are or as broad as you want. Sometimes it's just a handshake and let's go. But I find the larger the commitment is, the more people have to buy into this and see it as a contract. Literally, you're in a relationship for that amount of time. Because we're all giving up a lot of things to fulfill this commitment. All right, the next bit, the honeymoon period. Anyone know what I'm talking about with the team? Has anyone been through that? Okay, it's that time when you've got your team together and you're super excited. You've been talking about it. Winter's gone. You're just about to do your first tunnel camp and you're just buzzing. You just cannot wait to put all this energy in. And things go really well. I mean, you get on well together. You have a great time socially. The jumps are going well. There's just, your learning curve is just like that. Enjoy it. Make the most of it. And remember those bits. Because like any honeymoon period, you're going to have to get on with the real life afterwards as well. So enjoy that bit, but recognize that it is going to change subtly the more time you spend together. All right, challenges or obstacles. I could probably do a whole seminar on the challenges that myself and my teammates have had to face getting ready for World Championships. We just had a recent one where we've just had one of my teammates hurt themselves and we were like, okay, what do we do? And we immediately started thinking it was a terrible thing. And in the end, we just calmed down and said, okay, we'll just assess it. Had an injury, let's see when the injury is healed and let's get back on the program afterwards. It was a little challenge. As it was, we moved right through it. We set a date to make a decision and then we're back on the training again. One of my teammates broke his back once, right in the middle of a training season. Broke his back and we're like, that's it, we're on the way to a world meet, what are we going to do? And so what he did was he visualized. We all visualized, we watched videos, we talked about it. When he came back, he was raring to go. Someone might have a baby. It's happened, I heard. You know, these things don't have to kill your commitment. They will test your ability to deal with a challenge or whether you're going to see it as an obstacle. Obviously, if you see it as an obstacle, that's it, you're pretty much done. It's a challenge. It's something to work out a solution through. All right, team roles and responsibilities. When you spend a bunch of time together, you're going to need to do a little bit of delegation. Some of you might be good at planning the travel, the accommodation. Some of you might be good at working out the jumps. You might have different areas that you excel at. If you're in a team for a really long time, I recommend that you test your weaknesses. Otherwise, just go ahead and give each individual the thing that they're best at. Give them that delegation. Delegate to them that. But I found being on a team for a long period of time gives you a good opportunity to grow in some areas. Like, I'm really bad at maths. Mum and dad can vouch for that. And so what I did was one year, I'm like, I want to be the accountant this year. And I ran the money. It worked out. I learned how to do my times table finally after a few years. So depending on how much time you spend together, might work out how you split your responsibilities. All right, that's pretty much it, guys, as far as the putting the team together. Hey, yeah. What we're going to move on to now is the actual training plan. So this is kind of the meat of the session. We're going to go into a bit more detail. So first thing is we need a roadmap. Supplies and fuel. Okay, so we've got our team together. We've decided a team objective. We know how much time and money we've got. And now we're going to figure out how many jumps we're going to need to do. Well, this is, again, it's relative to our team goal. So if we want to win nationals, it's going to be a lot of jumps. So let's just pick, so we want to do 500 jumps with that team in that year. That's our total number, but now we have to figure out how much we're going to put into each camp. Are we going to try and do 500 jumps the week before the World Championships, or are we going to have to try and split it up over the year? Let's take a different commitment. Let's say a commitment where we're going to make 100 jumps over the year. A little bit less now. If we're going to figure out how many jumps we do in a camp, do we want to do a lot of jumps in a camp? Are we ready to make 12 jumps a day, 15 jumps a day to do back-to-backs? Or are we not quite up for that? Are we still going to do 6 to 8 jumps a day using single rigs? Work all this stuff out prior. Obviously, if you're going to be doing back-to-back jumps, have any of you trained doing back-to-backs? Anyone in the room? Yeah? It's quite physically demanding, right? You need to be ready for it mentally and physically. Your backup rigs needs to be a rig that you're comfortable with as well. I've seen too many people borrow a rig that they're not happy with, sling it on their back and they can't reach the handle, they're just totally uncomfortable. And their mind is down, not on their performance, it's on their equipment. So if you're thinking of doing back-to-backs, do some jumps on that rig before you get on the training camp. Don't just turn up at the camp ready to go. I recommend. You're going to be getting pack-in or you're going to be doing it yourself. We've done some camps where we've packed for ourselves, where we've done 12 to 16 jumps a day and we've packed for ourselves. I don't recommend it. The effort that you then can spend on four-way is close to nothing towards the end of the day. So try and balance it all out. Okay, so that's jump numbers. Any questions on jump numbers, either on camps or per day? Efficiency-wise, I would say, well, it depends on your experience level. I mean, for some groups, 6 jumps a day is going to feel like a lot. For some groups, 12 jumps a day is going to feel easy. So work out what your group is ready for and be honest. Talk to your coach about that as well. They've generally got a little bit of experience with regards to that. Okay, the next one is tunnel. It's not even a question really nowadays. Everyone appreciates that tunnel has such a huge element, a role to play. Used to be days where like, yeah, let's not worry about the tunnel. We don't need to do that. We'll just focus on the jumps. It's tough to do that now and be competitive. So how much you're going to do in total? Again, depends on your goal. But once you've decided that, figure out how much you want to do on your camp and per day. Like if I said to some of you, right, we're going to do 3 hours of tunnel today, it'd be like, oh my God, That's a lot of tunnel time. Whereas some people might consider that a doable. You know, again, work out what is useful for you and your group. Coaching. You may decide to have coaching on all of your camps, on your tunnel camps, on your freefall camps. You may decide to coach yourselves. If you do, that is great, and I always applaud that when I find a group that wants to coach themselves, especially if it works for you, because you can grow from that experience too. It makes you responsible. However, make sure you have some kind of strong leader or a strong focus for that camp that you don't have a coach. And if you are working with a coach and you intend to do a camp without a coach, get them to help you set it up as well. Try not to reinvent the wheel too many times. I mean, of course you can come up with some great new ideas, but use the experience of the coach that you're using or another coach. Just say, hey, help me plan this camp out a little bit. But it's not a bad thing. Don't consider it impossible to do a camp without a coach. You can actually learn a lot from it, and your group can grow from it as well. Okay, we'll come back to coaching in a bit more detail in a bit. Equipment. So the last seminar in here was about sponsorship. So let's say you've got your sponsorship and you're going to talk about team equipment. That may be something that you want to talk about within your team. Why do you want to have matching equipment? Looks pretty cool. Gives you a couple of extra points. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe in here, I mean, I know that if you look at a team that shows up and they look slick, that makes them feel pretty good, and everyone's going to be like, they might know what they're doing. Of course, you have all the gear, no idea scenario as well, in any sport. But if you are going to get sponsorship, talk to teams that have gone through that route to get some good advice. Or hopefully you were in the last seminar where they gave you all the advice on how to get sponsorship. Equipment, we've talked about a second rig and borrowing it already. So the next thing is training venue. You're going to train here in the UK. If you are, you know that your season is limited, but you also know that the drop zone owners are out to help you generally. I mean, you go to a drop zone that knows teams, they'll get you up. That's the great thing about skydiving in the UK. I've skydived all over the world, but if I want to jump, if I come to a UK drop zone, I know they're going to do everything to get me up in the air. It's just the way it is, especially the places that we jump, because you're used to jumping in really bad conditions. Like yesterday, I arrived at Birmingham, got out and looked at the weather, and I thought, 20 years ago, this would have been a jumpable day to me, because it was windy, the cloud was low, there was a blue hole in the distance, and I could see it coming, and I was like, yes, this 20 years ago, I would have been all go for it for skydiving, but not so much anymore. All right, so think about your training venue. If you are going to go abroad, look at the exchange rate. Look at places that are running a good exchange rate. Do they have the aircraft that you require to be ready for the competition as well? Which time of year? If you're going to go to Florida in the middle of summer, not such a good idea. It might sound good, but it's incredibly humid. It rains every day at 12 o'clock. If you're going to go to Eloy in the middle of summer or Dubai, you might want to think again. So when you're planning out your calendar, put in the weather as that part of the planning as well. Okay, cost of jumps. Try and lock down a jump cost as well, because exchange rates change. I'm not very good at the math side of it, but if you do have someone within your team that can do that, give them that responsibility and say, hey, you talk to the drop zone, figure out the jump rate far ahead of time, so you don't have any shocks when you get there. Okay, moving on. So fitness. We can break this down into a few different areas. How fit do you need to be for your commitment? That depends. If you want to make 500 jumps that year with the team, or 1,000 jumps for the year with the team, and compete at the highest level at the World Championships, you're probably going to need to approach this in a different way as if you're just going to show up and attend nationals for the first time. So you have to ask yourself, how fit do I need to be for my commitment? Obviously, the fitter you are, the easier it is going to be to achieve your goal. If you spend a certain amount of time working on your fitness, you're going to have more brain power, you're going to be less tired at the end of the day, you're going to have to keep your focus on the event. I would like to think that it's a personal responsibility, but it doesn't always work like that. As a coach, quite often I'll set fitness tasks if I feel like it will help an individual. If you can do it as a team as well, it makes it quite fun. Like just a warm up and a stretch in the morning can be a little bit social then as well. You know, you haven't seen each other all night, you get together in the morning, it's just a way of kind of rekindling the team goal, if you like, just hanging out together, doing a bit of a warm-up and a stretch. Personally, I think it's super important. I notice a difference when I'm fit as opposed to when I'm not to how I perform in the air. I've done the maths on that and it seems to work. Nutrition. Okay, so food and drink throughout the day. We're going into quite detail now, but again, you're putting a lot of time and money into this, so to have all that time and money, and then you're in the middle of a training camp and you sit down, you eat a huge lunch, and then you go out and you expect to perform the same way that you did throughout the whole rest of the day. It's not going to work. Know what works for you. Know what kind of food is going to get you on an even temper through the day. If you suffer from low blood sugar like I do, there are times during the day when if I haven't got food in my system, I'm really not very nice to be around. So if you know you're like that, do your teammates a favor and carry food, definitely. All right, and just food and drink. Just think about it through the day. If you know you have a training day coming up, whether that's in the wind tunnel or whether that's out on the drop zone, I would stock up with some stuff that you like, stuff that works for you. Don't just rely on the drop zone canteen to supply you with what you need to make you feel good. Okay, that's physical fitness. Any questions about that? All right, mental fitness. It is a mind game, very much. As we know, we've chosen to be part of a sport. I mean, there was even a team called Mind Games. One of my teammates was part of it, an 8-way team. It's such a mind game. You know that if you have the correct arousal level means that you could perform in at your optimum, that you can do great. But if I use myself as an example, there are some times when I perform and I feel fantastic. I feel like I see everything, I can feel every grip, I can look at my teammates' eyes and everything is just good. I'm never below the line. That's not one of my failings. I know some people that they turn up and they're just listless and they're not energized. That's never something that I find myself doing. I tend to go the other way. I'm like a squirrel on coffee, So I literally on the day of a competition, I'll do 1 coffee instead of my usual 3. I'll work out what I need to get that right arousal level. And you can do that by studying yourself in a training environment or in a competition environment, or you can read books about it. There is a lot of literature out there where you can study how some of your heroes in other sports, what they've done to get themselves in the right frame of mind, bit of sports psychology to help you through some of the tough times. The main thing is to have a plan. Practice it in your training and your training competitions, and so that when you get to the competition venue for the World Championships, the Nationals, the World Challenge at Bedford, it's ready to go. Don't wait until you get to that competition to test your competition plan. Do it before then. All right, and emotional fitness. So basically all this is are you going to be reacting constructively and in a positive, proactive manner when things go south, or are you going to be screaming and being negative? It's like you owe your teammates a certain level of emotional fitness when you enter into that. It is a relationship, you are trying to perform, but you're not married to each other. So I think that's something that you kind of got to work out amongst yourself as a team. And think about it, what can you do for your team? Not what can your team do for you. Although they will be there to help you, I must say. Teammates are forever. All right. So moving on, because we've still got quite a bit to cover. A guide, coaching. Well, obviously I recommend it because it's what I do for a living, but I love getting coaching. Whatever sport I'm doing, my first coach in skydiving was a gentleman named Scott Meek. You know the Mika? They named it after him. He was one of the first top level coaches in the sport. He was on an US 8-way team. Being coached by Dan BC and Gary Smith. I mean, 3 guiding lights in skydiving. And I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure to be coached by any of them, but I love getting coaching, whether I'm snowboarding, swimming, riding, running, whatever. Going out and getting some help from someone that resonates with you is fantastic. And you can then turn off your analytical brain, give it to someone else, and then focus on your performance, which is truly a splendid way to go through a learning process. If you do have to coach yourself, as I said, at least get some kind of help from your coach to set up that part of the training. And also maybe split the responsibilities. John reminded me of this the other day. When we were on XL, which is the team I was on back in the 90s and early 2000s, we spent all of our, pretty much 90% of our time coaching ourselves. And what we did was we would split responsibilities. So one week would be Chris's turn, one week would be John's turn, etc. We'd all get a chance to run it. We're not saying that we wouldn't listen to the other people, but that person would be responsible for setting up the daily activity, setting up the dives, and if it came down to a decision, we'd all defer to that person for that week, knowing that we could get them back the week after. All right. Physio, you may choose to get an outside physio, you may decide to do it yourself, you may have enough knowledge. Again, why not? You could use 4-way as an opportunity to make yourself stronger, fitter, etc. Otherwise, just at least get some information from online or from books. Sports psychologist, okay. We were super lucky in the early 2000s to be coached by someone called Dr. John de Rosalia. He has written a book about skydiving and mental training, and I felt like we were blessed to have that opportunity, because as a team, we were 4 guys and we were focusing on technical skydiving. He sat us down and then just broke it all down. He gave us techniques for meditation, for team visualization, how to get that optimal arousal level, and loads of tricks and stuff that I still learn and use to this day. And in fact, all of us as a team, when we get back together, we quite often say, hey, you remember that thing that John taught us back in the day? I find I'm still using that now or teaching it to individuals. So I strongly recommend, if you know someone that can help you in that area through sports psychology, or if you want to do just a little bit of study, there are umpteen books, and one of them will resonate with you. There are some of the books, like Dan BC's book, for example, is a good example. Dan Millman's books. Some books will resonate with you more than others. Pick something that works. Okay. Team manager. If you're not a full-time team, you're like, we don't need that. And maybe you don't. But if you are, maybe you do. You know, maybe one of your friends knows a little bit more about business. They can help you out. Maybe a partner, someone else, a relation of someone within the team. Maybe it's a way to incorporate them within the circle. We had a team manager for a little while, and it worked fantastic. It meant that we could put our mind, again, on our performance and the technical improvements. Okie doke. Learning. Let's keep it brief now. So, is this anyone's full-time job, 4-way? Pretty much. But so it's not your full-time job, so make it fun. You know, I know you want to learn, and I know you want lots of technical information, you want to do thousands of reps on stuff, but keep it fun and playful. However, keep it productive as well. So once you set your goal, set strategies to see if you're reaching that goal, check your block time, see how many points you're doing in time every so often. Don't focus on it every day, but kind of track how you're going through the season. Your coach will generally help you with that as well. So keep it playful but productive. All right, the next stage is talking about the plan, the training plan from, let's say, November. And I know on the seminar it said 2-year plan, but I kind of shortened it a little bit to make it easier to a 1-year plan from November through to, let's say, your main competition at the end of the summer. So on that timeline, this is the way I would strongly recommend, based on going through a few years of setting up team plans, is we want to start off with basic skills. I'm going to cover these in more detail in a second. Figure out how much tunnel we're going to throw into the mix. Then start working on the randoms, the blocks, figuring out B slots. Who knows what B slots are? A few people? Yes, good. Some nerds in there, which is great. More nerds, the better. Exits, if you're a free-fall team as well. Some competition preparation, getting ready. And then maybe, obviously, the mental preparation as well, that'll help that out. A couple of test competitions. You may decide that if this is your competition here, well, we're going to attend a regionals or a tunnel competition here and a regional competition here, just to check stuff out. And then throw in, just prior to your big meet, some kind of training block where you can consolidate. You know, that's how you want it to go. That's probably much how it is going to go. All right, there's going to be a few pitfalls in there along the way. All right, so a little talk about tunnel. Keep it brief again. So you guys have so much choice in the UK now. How many tunnels? 4, with a 5th being built right in Bristol as well. So pretty soon there's going to be quite a few tunnels, so you're spoilt for choice. Obviously a lot of that depends on your coach's availability and the teammates' availability as well, as far as geographical location. How much tunnel are you going to do? You know, is it the right size for your event? If you're doing 4-way AAA, 12-foot tunnel, not so good. 14, barely. So just think about those things as well when you're doing it. Are you going to get coaching rigs? Who's flown with rigs on in the tunnel? Yeah, it's a great idea. It's horrible. It's really not very nice at all, but it simulates what you're hoping to do in freefall. So if you plan on being a freefall team, I would recommend just a little bit of it, just maybe before you get into freefall for that season. It's not vital, but it does give you a little taste what you're going to set yourself up for, so you don't get too disappointed. And this is another complete seminar of shifting from tunnel to freefall. Okay. Next thing, basic skills. So basic skills are something that you can either work on before you start flying with your team. You can grab a coach, grab a friend, go and work on your one-on-one skills, or you can incorporate it into your first training and get your coach to set it up. But please do it. It's like showing up to a tennis game not knowing how to hold your racket. You know, these are basic things that you should know. And so solo skills, which require a good body position, movement in all axis, loads of repetition, so that you can do it. Yeah, you can do it with your coach there. Look, I can do this great 360 turn, everything's super balanced, check out my side slides. But now you're in 4-way, things are getting busy, you know, you've got other things on your mind. Can you still maintain it? So you want your coach, or you want your friends to test you at different rates as well. And then you can chuck all those basic skills into a 4-way environment, whether it's in freefall or in the tunnel. And those drills are pretty easy to get hold of. They're just doing 360s, 90s, verticals, just different exercises so that you're then ready for the 4-way. All right, next thing, randoms. So learn the randoms, learn the letters, learn their shapes, figure out who keys them, whether it's you or your teammates or all of you. Setups, long axis. Have I lost anyone? Some people with me, yeah? Okay, so these are some of the details that, you know, if you're a 4-way nerd, you love this stuff. You drink it all in. If you're not, it's a different language. So I won't go into it in too much detail. I'll wait for the blocks for that. But obviously, these are things that you need to get into early on. All right, so blocks, here we go. So you figure out what category. You know, you've got X amount of jumps. Are you going to be ready to do AAA, or is A all you're going to do? Now, first of all, you're in an environment in the UK skydiving scene where you have these different categories where you can develop. A lot of countries don't have that. They go straight to AAA, which means that on your first season of doing 4-way, you've got all the slot switches, which is a nightmare. You know, spend your time at the different levels and you will learn the foundation skills that will go on as you get quicker and the memory comes in, make it way easier. When you learn the blocks, start off simple, go complex. So if we have 22 blocks, you would maybe learn the random blocks first, 7, 9, 14, 15, etc., before you started learning, say, the slot switches. Figure out what shapes they are again, who keys them, and then we get to the real fun elements of blocks. I'm going to wax lyrical a bit here because I absolutely love 4-way, but the thing is, once you start learning how to do blocks, it's not just these things that you spin around hanging on. It's that there you are in a formation. You know, you've picked up the grips. You feel from your teammates' grips on you that they're ready to go. You look across, you see the other teammate, they've picked up, their eyes lift up, and you can see they're absolutely ready to go. And then you and your teammate in the center, you step out of the center of a formation, and you're timing yourself out, you've got the levels just right, you feel the rotation, and boom, the block's done. And all of that, you know, you put together by learning all the different elements. It's a very rewarding piece of work once you put it together. That was block 21, by the way. But you knew that. All right. Yeah. Okay, so test competitions. The idea is that you use these test competitions to figure out if you're ready for your main event. So you do a little bit of competition preparation before the test comp, and that means putting together a competition plan. And that plan will be, how's the day going to go? We show up in the morning at a certain time, we do our normal stretch or not. We plan the jumps. How many times are we going to creep? How many times, if there's a weather hold, are we going to get together so that we're ready for the next jump? After the jump, are we going to land and go, that was terrible? Or are we going to just zip it and then walk back together and pretend it was the best jump ever? You know, how are you going to approach those things? How are you going to deal with your arousal level through the day? Figure that stuff out and use the test competition to put that into practice. Okay, it's also a really good chance to work on to see how your progression is going to your overall goal. So if your goal was to do a 20-point average at nationals, and in your test competition you're doing a 21, it's like, we need to change our goal, yeah, or the other way. And as I said, check out the competition plan. The other reason is get out and play. You know, we get so focused on our training that we don't get to do like football teams do. We don't get to play once a week. You know, that's something I really think that we need to develop more within our sport, and tunnels will help us do that, is get out and actually play the sport. And that will make you stronger, because every jump that you make in competition is equal to 10, 20 that you might do in training. Because if you make a mistake in training, you're like, it's all right, I can pick it up on the next jump. You make a mistake in competition, you won't feel so good. You know, so that moment of learning from the competition goes a really long way. So get out and compete, go and play. All right, and this is us playing last week. Cool. All right, mental preparation. Have a team plan. It may be that you might go crazy with it. You might decide to do a team visualization every day. And I've done some as a coach where I've talked my teams through a daily visualization. And that will be, for example, I'd have you all close your eyes and I'd talk you through the day, right from when you showed up to the drop zone, and we'd kind of create it. And we'd be ready then for any mistakes that happen, any weather holds. Can't fix every single error, but you can do your best to create the day how you want it. Or not. You might decide not to do a team thing and just keep it completely personal. And if it's personal, have a plan for it. Check it in training. Don't just wait for the competition to see if your plan works. Have it roughed out and have it as a kind of a working document. All right. Have you done your homework? Yeah? Good. All right, this is something that as a coach, it's really irritating because you guys spend a lot of money for us to teach you, and we love teaching you about four-way or whatever skill you're learning. We absolutely love teaching and talking about it. But then, you know, you do the training camp and then someone comes back 6 months later and they've got no notes at all from that previous session. And so they're starting from scratch again. So you're spending all that money again instead of developing it onto the next stage. So take notes, and then if you take a little break before you come back to it, let's say a 6-month break, read through your notes before you come back. You will save a lot of time and a lot of money. Your teammates will love you for it as well. Okay, yes, so try and make training like competition and vice versa. Remember, if it's in your control, do your best to control it. If it's out of your control, let it go. There's nothing you can do. Okay, the final training block. So, okay, this is that last block of training that we do prior to our main competition. It's quite a critical bit. By now, we would try and use the information from the previous competition. So we had this progression charted, that beautiful linear curve from starting to finishing. But maybe it wasn't quite like that. You know, we wanted a 20-point average, but we're only doing a 15. If we now go into our next competition expecting a 20-point average, we may be severely disappointed. We have to now check our goal. Have we followed the curve we wanted? Is it realistic? Confirm the objective. Check out the routine. So during this last training block, you might not do 20 jumps a day. You might simulate competition a little bit more. You know, maybe do 10 jumps a day, have some longer breaks, use the weather holds to practice how you're going to hang out in the competition. You may be super lucky and do that last training block at the venue where your competition is. If you can, it's a winner, because then you start to simulate the environment, the smells, the food, and you get yourself ready for that big competition, your A meet. And then here it comes. your competition. Well, you are ready, right? Because there's nothing else you can do at that stage. You've done all the training that you can. You show up, day one of the competition. You have to tell yourself, even if you don't feel it, just keep faking it. I am ready. Because you are. There is nothing more that you can change. So don't get in the process. Just let it happen. Enjoy it. Get out and play. The thing you want to do now is really just execute. Is make the training like competition and make the competition like your training. Please don't get caught up in the final result. I've been there and done it. It's horrible. It's a real waste of emotion and energy. Once you're in there, there's not many times you're going to get to do this level of competition, whether it's your first nationals or whether it's your 20th World Championships. It doesn't happen every day. So really go out and enjoy every moment of it and learn as much of it as you can. Yeah, execute, have fun with it. All right, guys, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be super happy. Thank you.